Hello, I have a question for you. So, are your feelings keeping you poor? Are your feelings keeping you poor? And what I mean by that is, um, do you ever find yourself finding it so hard to push beyond what you feel like doing that you end up doing nothing? Or do you ever feel like there's a ton of bricks on you? Do you ever feel extremely heavy, like there's a ton weighing you down? And for that reason, you can't get yourself to take action. Or do you ever feel like if you take one step or if you lift one finger, you're just going to lose it all and you're just going to fall apart and start crying, right? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, I'm excited about this Sunday school because I believe this Sunday school will set you free. It'll give you the tools you need to overcome those feelings, to overcome feeling like you can't do it, to overcome that lack of motivation, that heavy feeling. We're going to get to the root of it and we're going to get to what you can do to overcome it. So, for those of you who have never been here before, my name is Shelomith and I am excited to welcome you to another Detour to Destiny Sunday School. Today's Sunday School is crucial. Today's Sunday School is urgent because those feelings cause us to be lazy. Those feelings cause us to be what is called slothful, right? And the Bible tells us that slothfulness, laziness, it will lead to poverty guaranteed. So let's read what the word today we're coming from Proverbs chapter 24, and it is verse 30. And then we're also coming from Ecclesiastes chapter 10, I believe, verse 18. So today I kind of was like, God, what do you want me to talk about? I was like, what do you want me to talk about? And I prayed and I was reading the Bible. And when I was coming across Proverbs 24, verse 30, that verse stuck out. And I was like, is it just sticking out? Is it me? Or is this really what you want me to talk about? So I kept reading, and I'm telling y'all, like I've flipped through the Bible, and the next verse I landed on was Ecclesiastes 10:18, which to me confirmed God was saying, yes, that's exactly what I want you to talk about. So to make it make sense, let's go on and let's read Proverbs 24, verse 30. It says, I have my Bible right here. So Proverbs 24:30 says, I went by the field of the slothful and by the vineyard of the man void of understanding. And lo, it was all grown over with thorns, and nettles had covered the face thereof, and the stone wall thereof was broken down. Then I saw and considered it well. I looked upon it and received instruction. Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep, so shall poverty come as one that travaileth, and thy want as an armed man. Man, so this verse is saying, Paul is saying, I was walking by a field, and I think it's important to note out or to point out, he said, I came across the home, the field, the vineyard of someone who lacks understanding. Lacking understanding is key. To put lacking understanding and slothful together is saying a lot. But it's saying I went past their home and I went past their property, and the vineyard was overgrown. The gate was broken. The walls were torn down because of all of the weeds, and the overgrowth had taken over the property. And he's saying, and when as I was looking at that, I got a message. And the message that he got from looking at this property that had been neglected was that a little folding of the hands, meaning a little of just enough of saying, I'll do it later. I'll get back to it. I don't feel like doing it right now. Let me finish watching this TV show. Let me finish watching the series. A little folding of the hands, a little sleep, right? Meaning a little hitting that snooze button over and over again, a little of choosing to sleep in when there's work to do, a little being lazy. Doing that enough will eventually lead to poverty. And it says the poverty will come upon you as one who travaileth. That means someone who's in labor. You know how a woman is in labor and all of a sudden her water breaks and it feels all of a sudden. You really don't know the day, the minute, or the hour that you're going to go into labor. They try to predict it, but really, you really don't know. So it's saying a little, you keep putting stuff off, and poverty is going to come upon you suddenly, the way labor pains come upon a woman suddenly. And it says that want, meaning that you're going to be in a position where you want things, that's going to come upon you like an armed man. So you know how you're walking down the street and all of a sudden, well, I don't want to say you're right. Let's take the scenario of being robbed. Robberies are sudden. Robbery, someone sneak up on you. Usually when you're getting robbed, you don't see the person coming. So this verse is saying when you keep putting things off, when you hit the snooze, when you choose to sleep, when you choose to put it off for tomorrow, when you choose to be slothful, poverty comes upon you suddenly, like a woman's contractions come upon her suddenly. And your want, being in a position where you want things, it sneaks up on you the same way a robber sneaks up on you. That's what that Bible verse is saying. The second thing that I was led to this morning was Ecclesiastes 10. And it was crazy because I was asking God, like, what do you want me to talk about? I flipped and it landed on Ecclesiastes 10:18. And this is what 10:18 says. By much slothfulness, the building decays, and through idleness of the hands, the house drops through. So it was like, for me today, it was God reinforcing because it was the same exact thing. I didn't know that was there. I prayed and he pointed me to both verses. So I said, okay, God, that's what you want me to talk about. So the reason I'm asking, are your feelings making you poor? Slothfulness, laziness, it's easy for me to come on here and try to motivate you and to say, you have to push beyond what you feel like doing, and you have to push beyond your feelings, you have to push beyond your emotions, and you have to take action anyway. We all know that. I think it's safe to say you know that already. It's definitely safe to say I know that already. So the question becomes, if we know that slothfulness and we know that laziness leads to poverty, why do we still choose to not take action? That's what I want to get to today. I want to get to the root of it, because me telling you to push beyond your feelings and do it anyway is not really helping you, because you already know that. Me telling you that you have to push beyond your feelings, push beyond your emotions, and take action even when you're not motivated, you already know that. So the fact that you already know that tells me, and it tells you, that me telling you that again is not going to help you take action. What will help you take action is get into the root of the reason you may not be taking action. So I highlighted a few reasons that I want to talk about. And if you can identify with any of these reasons, I feel like it'll be a great help to you. So let me see, where are my reasons? I want to share a personal story before I get into the reasons. And I want to reveal to you, of these reasons, which one was mine. So me being a person, I know this. Like, I know that you have to push beyond what you feel. I know you have to push beyond what you feel like doing. But it was still hard. When I wake up in the morning and I hit snooze over and over and over again. So this verse was really speaking to me, and it was making me afraid, because I'm like, I gotta get a handle on this. Another thing that would happen to me is I started to notice that sleepiness was a stress response. So if I was sleep, if I had a lot to do, if there was a lot on my plate, or if I was stressed out about something, for me, sometimes my body feels sleepy. So that's another thing I was fighting. So I'm very introspective, and I started to really pay attention to why I wasn't taking action. I know what to do. I'm capable of doing it. I'm physically capable of doing it. I have the wisdom, I have the resources, I have the tools, I have the know how. So I remember praying out to God, why am I not taking action? And when I'm thinking about it, I would be motivated thinking about what I need to do. But then when the time would come for me to do it, the motivation would not be there, and I would be left not doing it. So I really started paying attention to myself, and I was like, let me really, really pay attention to my body, pay attention to my thoughts, pay attention to what's going on when I'm choosing to procrastinate or choosing to put the task off. During this introspection, I noticed, say, for example, if I needed to sit down at the computer and I needed to type a letter, and it was a letter that could possibly forge a great relationship for a business I'm starting. I would notice when I sat down in my body, it would feel, I would have this sense of anxiety, this sense of nervousness swirling around in the pit of my stomach. It almost felt like the emotion you get when you have to sing in front of someone or speak in front of a crowd of 1,000 people, and maybe you have stage fright, present something and maybe you don't feel prepared. All of it will be a flood of emotions that would just come over me and make me feel extremely uncomfortable. I really turned in and looked into myself. Say, for example, if the goal was for me to record a video or the goal was for me to code something, whatever it was, sometimes I would notice I would feel nervous in the pit of my stomach. I would feel uneasy. Sometimes I would just feel uncomfortable, like my breathing would get shallow. It would just feel like my stomach was a wave of emotion. I was having a visceral response. What I noticed when I slowed down enough to notice what was going on, I was choosing to watch TV instead, not because I was running away from the task, but because I was running away from the visceral or the physical feelings I was having. So I would choose to call someone instead to distract myself. Or I would go to the refrigerator and I would choose something to eat, a snack, but it was nervous energy. Or I would choose to find something on Prime or Netflix to watch to move away from the feeling. So that made me say, it's not that I'm necessarily moving away from the task, I'm moving away from this feeling that I get. And if you slow down enough, and when you sit down to do whatever it is on your to-do list, I don't know if your to-do list is to study for an exam, to finish homework, to clean up the house, to work on your business, whatever that task is, I want you to slow down time and I want you to really be in tune with your body, with your mind, with your thoughts. And I want you to pay attention to what is physically happening when you don't feel like doing something. What is physically happening when you put yourself in a position to do something? Because that's going to give you a big clue. It may even be the answer as to what is really going on with you. Because most of us are not lazy. Most of us are not slothful. Most of us have other things going on subconsciously, other things going on in our bodies that makes us act as if we're slothful, that makes us act as if we are lazy. So I want to uncover those, and I'm going to reveal to you what I found out mine was. But I want to go over some of the reasons you may be struggling to take action, because more than likely you're not lazy. More than likely you're not a procrastinator. More than likely you're not slothful. More than likely there are things that are happening that are making you perform as if you are. And if you get to the root cause of the reason you move away from what you need to do, that will be the cure for you. It's going to take more than someone pushing you. You got to do it. I believe in you. It will take more than that. It may even take more than positive affirmations. I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. I'm going to work out. I believe I can. It may take more than that. It may even take more than you beating yourself up. Beating yourself up actually works counterproductively, because I know what was happening with me is that I would get into this phase and I would kind of, man, why didn't I do it? I'm so tired of giving in. I'm so tired of not taking action. Oh, I'm so tired of not getting up in the morning. I'm so tired of hitting snooze. And you get down on yourself. I was getting down on myself, and that makes it worse. So, having said all that, here are some reasons you may be struggling to take action. Some of you listening may be experiencing brokenness. Some of you listening may be experiencing brokenness. What I mean by that is some of you have broken hearts. Some of you are broken because you feel as if life has broken you down. Some of you don't have the energy, the enthusiasm to move forward because you are broken. Life has broken you. And because life has broken you, because you may feel brokenhearted, because you may feel discouraged, because you may feel as if everything is going wrong, those emotions are working against you. And you're in a place where you cannot get yourself to take action because your heart is so heavy that your heart is weighing you down. For some of you, it's not that you're lazy, it's not that you're slothful, it's just that life has disappointed you so much that it has knocked the wind out of you and you can't get yourself to take action. So it's not that you have an issue with discipline, you have a heart condition. You have a heart condition that needs to be mended, that needs to be tended to. So the question becomes, if you identify with, you know what, that resonates with me, I do feel broken. If you feel brokenhearted, if you feel as if life, everything is stacked up against you, the answer, of course, is prayer. In addition to prayer, you also may need to speak to a therapist. You also may need to seek a counselor, a professional therapist, a licensed therapist, because the licensed therapist can help you navigate through the heartbreak. The licensed therapist can help you navigate through whatever beliefs, whatever mindsets you have adopted in response to what has happened to you in life. Because it's not the thing that has happened to you in life that's making you not be able to move forward. It's not even the heartbreak that's making you not be able to move forward. It is the emotion that came along with it. And those emotions have to run their course. So I'm not trying to get you to rush through grief because the grieving process is necessary. But if you find yourself stuck in grief, you may need help to transition out of that. Another thing is another reason, another powerful reason to speak to a counselor, to seek out a therapist, because they can help you reframe. So, what I mean by that is, as a result of whatever has happened to you in life, you may have adopted some internal conversation, some internal dialogue that's not serving you, that's keeping you stuck. So, sometimes when you keep getting knocked down, the internal dialogue is, I'm tired of trying, I don't want to try anymore, it's not going to work. The internal dialogue may be, I don't have anything left in me to give. The internal dialogue may sound something like, every time I try to go at something, it seems like it's an uphill battle. I'm tired of struggling. The internal dialogue may be, I wonder if God is trying to teach me a lesson, or I wonder if I'm being punished. All of those things that we tell ourselves work against us, and they are not true, and they are lies. Sometimes when you are in that place, you need someone outside of you to speak life into you to get you to shift. Sometimes you just need another voice to challenge what you have come to believe and to pull out what you have come to believe so that it can be exposed and so that the lie can be dismantled. Remember, the truth sets you free. The truth is, that was a season. That too shall pass. The truth is, the hardship is not the final destination for you. The truth is, you can get back up and try again. The truth is, it did not take everything from you. The truth is, you do have the strength and the fortitude to get back up and to try it a different way. Maybe it's a season for you to try a different method. Maybe it's a season for you to try a different approach. Maybe that path that you were trying to go down really wasn't the best path for you and you were being redirected. Maybe you didn't make the best decisions with the money or with the business, but that doesn't mean that you have to wallow in it. You can learn from that. Okay, I'm going to make the money again. How can I make better decisions to invest and to save this time? Okay, this action is the reason that I failed in the business. I'm going to start the business again. I'm going to approach it this way and stay at this time. So having an outside voice, having a therapist, a business coach, a financial coach, those three people can help you reframe and can help you through your brokenness. So, yes, of course, I want you to pray. You also need to seek therapy. If you're listening to me and your thought process is, well, I already have a therapist and it's not working, you need to seek another therapist. Therapy, sometimes you have to try 3, 4, 5 times until you find a therapist that actually works for you. So you can't just find a therapist, your life has been the same, and then say therapy doesn't work. You just may need to find a different therapist. Moving on to the second reason you may find it hard to take action or to stay motivated: fear of consequence. Fear of consequence. This kind of speaks to the first reason. Sometimes we see things not working out before we even take action. For example, you may want to start a catering business, but when you think about it, you think about how hard it's going to be. You think about how hard it's going to be on your body. You think about how much work it's going to take. You think about possibly getting sued by someone if they get food poisoning. You think of all the things that could possibly go wrong, and the fear of consequence shuts you down. So even though you had the initial motivation to take action, once you really sat down and started to think about it and the reality of the possibility started to settle in, you talked yourself out of it. You may not even be aware that you've talked yourself out of it, but subconsciously, every time you sit down to write the business plan, deep, deep, deep in the back of your mind, there are thoughts there that are saying, if you do this, you could possibly end us. If you do this, you could possibly cause us pain. And the way you're wired, your body, your mind is wired to protect you from danger. So if you have thoughts that lead you to believe that you may be in danger if you take action, whether it's physical danger, financial danger, risk danger, those thoughts could physically be shutting you down. And they show up not as conscious thoughts. They show up as when you sit down to write the business plan, you get very, very sleepy. To you, you just think you're sleepy. But in the background of your mind, absent from your consciousness, you're not even aware that your brain is thinking all that stuff in the background and you don't even know you're thinking it. It just translates to you being sleepy. Or you may have all of the emotions I had where you feel nervous or you feel anxious, your body feels tense, you feel internal resistance, and you move away from it. You're not conscious of the thoughts, but way back here, there are some thoughts going on that are sending off false signals that you're in danger. Another reason why it's important to have a therapist, because a therapist can get to the root of the internal dialogue that you may not be aware of that's shutting you down and causing you to move away from action. The third reason you may find yourself struggling with procrastination, not taking action, you may have PTSD from previous attempts, post traumatic stress syndrome. And what I mean by that is you may have tried something before and it worked out horribly. You may have tried something multiple times and it worked out horribly. I can give you a personal example. I used to, and I still do sometimes, but I used to teach fitness classes. So I'm certified as a personal trainer. I used to have a small fitness location. And back then, I was super excited about it, super excited about starting a business, training people, seeing their bodies transition. But I had some horrible experiences in the process of training. During the process of training and starting up the business, I had experiences where anyone who works in fitness, you know that the clientele is up and then it crashes down, is up and then it crashes down. So I would have seasons and cycles where the business would boom and do phenomenal, but then I would crash and have seasons where I was making little to no money. During those seasons, financially, excuse me, it would cause a lot of strain. It would cause a lot of stress. I remember the lights being turned off. I remember utilities being turned off because during the down season, I did not practice money management well enough to keep me afloat. So that's something that was wired into my nervous system, wired into my memory. Another thing that was not a pleasant experience for me was I hate confrontation. And sometimes you would have clients who would come but wouldn't pay. And it would stress me out to have to confront someone and say, hey, you owe me money. So that's another thing that's a negative experience that's in my backlog. Another thing that was a horrible experience was one time I was teaching and someone actually fainted. If you teach fitness or if you work in that space, you know the worst thing that could possibly happen is for you to actually have to perform CPR. No one wants, we're trained, but you don't want to have to perform CPR. I had a girl pass out in my class and I had to call 911. That's another negative experience and my backlog. On top of that, I offered a 6 a.m. class and I don't typically enjoy waking up in the morning. So every morning I would wake up and sometimes I would be so sleepy, I would feel physically ill, like I wanted to vomit at 5 o'clock in the morning, 4:45 in the morning to be there by 6. All of these things that I experienced, even though I loved and I was excited about teaching fitness, all those things got logged into my backlog as negative experiences. Fast forward 3, 4, 5 years later, when I think about revisiting starting a fitness business, I wasn't aware of it at the time, but I could never get myself to sit down and to create the website to tell people that I'm teaching classes. I could never get myself to follow through on the flyers. I could never get myself to follow through on writing the meal plans and writing the workout plans and promoting. And I was constantly fighting with myself because I'm like, I know how to do this. I know I can do this. I did this before. I was successful at it. Why am I procrastinating? Why can I get myself to be motivated? Why can I get myself to follow through? In hindsight, I was experiencing PTSD from the past experiences when I had done it years ago. So introspection, talking to someone else can help you identify that. It was a total blind spot for me. In the moments when I would sit down and could not get myself to take action, I was beating myself up. I was just going, man, why I need to be more disciplined. I need to follow through. Why can't I get myself to take action? I know that I can do this. I'm doing affirmations. Yes, I can. I will wake up in the morning. I am powerful. I am I'm doing all the affirmations and it's just not working because the issue was all of the negative stuff that happened that I had never dealt with and talked through with someone to come to a different conclusion. So what that means is I had to go all the way back into my backlog that was causing me PTSD. And I had to deal with each thing because it was anytime I would try to move forward and revamping the fitness business, my brain kept log of it. Even though up here I wasn't conscious of it, my brain kept log of all those horrible experiences and was like, we are not going down that path again. Nope. We are not doing that. It causes us too much pain. That's what my brain was doing to protect myself. It translated as procrastination. It translated as lack of motivation. It translated as me hitting snooze 20 times. It translated as me getting extremely sleepy or feeling overwhelmed or feeling like I was going to cry when I lifted one finger to even type a meal plan. But I didn't know, I wasn't conscious that those thoughts in the background were logged in my nervous system and logged in my mind. So, my question to you is if you find yourself not being able to take action, not being able to get yourself to move forward, take a few minutes and think about have you had bad experiences or unpleasant experiences in the past that your subconscious mind may be trying to protect you from? Have you tried this before and it didn't work out? Have you tried something similar before and you had negative experiences? Have you tried anything before and it had negative experiences? Taking a moment to dismantle that, to dig that up, and to work with someone to help you reframe it may actually cure your lack of motivation. Because it may not be lack of motivation, it may be your subconscious mind trying to protect you because it's sending off fight or flight signals that are false. You may be misfiring, is what I'm saying, just like I was misfiring. So going back into my backlog, I had to dismantle. So what that means is when my waking up at 5 a.m. was logged in my backlog as torture. So I had to reframe it and say, do I have to wake up at 5 a.m.? Maybe I just shouldn't offer a 5 a.m. class. Or if I offer a 5 a.m. class, maybe hire someone else to teach that class. Or maybe I should pre-record the video, pre-record the 5 a.m. workout, and then put the 5 a.m. workout available for those who log in. They could just follow along with the video. And if I feel good enough to wake up in the morning, then I'll do it. That took away a ton of stress, and it reframed and it reshaped what was stored in my backlog. In terms of, the other experience I had where people wouldn't pay or people would pay late, reframing it and bringing it back up, it's like, okay, what systems could I put in place where payment is demanded up front? If I hate confrontation and confrontation makes me feel uncomfortable, it makes me feel nervous, maybe I hire someone else to collect the payments or reach out to someone when they need to pay. Maybe I have a family member who's more aggressive and more assertive. They have a more confrontational or more bold personality. Maybe I work a deal out with them and say, hey, I need you to call these people or talk to these people and tell them that they owe money, and I'll give you 10% of whatever their membership fee is if you talk to them, right? The point is going through each thing that's making you shut down, talking to someone else, maybe it's a business advisor, your therapist, whoever, just the reframing of it, you may be cured and you may find out, actually, I'm not lazy. Actually, I'm not slothful. I just had unresolved issues that were shutting me down. A third reason that you, or is this the third or the fourth? The fourth reason that you may suffer with procrastination, you may suffer with getting yourself to take action. You may honestly just be tapped out and don't want to admit that you're tapped out. I was talking about this with my best friend, and some of you are tapped out. Some of you had just given up, and you're like, I'm sick of trying. I'm sick of the trial and error. I'm sick of the ups and out, the ups and downs, and I'm done. I'm good. And sometimes when people tap out, you don't know that they've tapped out because there's two types of slothfulness, two types of quote unquote laziness. You have overt laziness or overt slothfulness, and you have deceitful, hidden slothfulness and laziness. So let's talk about the two. When you're witnessing someone who is overtly tapped out or overtly coming up as if they're lazy, it's obvious. They sleep all day. They lay on the couch all day, right? They don't take action. They don't do anything. They play video games all day. They watch TV all day. That is overt tapping out. That is overt slothfulness. You have another group of people who have tapped out in plain sight and you don't even know they tapped out. They may not even know that they've tapped out because these people are very good at creating the illusion of being busy, but their busyness is actually just avoidance. So what does that look like? This is the person who's always taking a class, always getting a certification, always enrolled in college. Because when you're enrolled in school, you're enrolled in classes, when you're seeking certifications, it looks like you're busy. But in reality, you have no intention on working. But staying in class and staying enrolled in things keeps people off your back because it looks like you're being productive. But you internally know that you've tapped out and you really just don't want to do life. So you keep enrolling in classes. Right? That's an example of overt tapping out versus deceitful hidden tapping out, overt laziness versus hidden deceitful laziness, overt slothfulness versus deceitful hidden slothfulness. Another way you can see people avoid, sometimes you'll see busybodies who really have tapped out. They really are being busy, but they're always doing something. They're always working. So they're always working a job, but it's a dead end job that's never really quite enough to pay the bills because they don't really want to do what's necessary to get a real skill set. They really don't want to do what it takes to show up and to work a job that's really going to change their life. So they know that they can't do nothing because their family is going to come in and say, hey, you're not doing anything, right? So they'll get a dead end job. They'll get a little petty Eddie job, but they know that they're not really doing what it takes to change their situation. Sometimes you'll also see this with slothful, lazy parenting too, where you'll have people who work overtime all the time because they want to avoid the work of parenting. So it's like, it looks honorable for me to say I have to work overtime. It looks honorable for me to say that I have to work a lot of hours to provide a better life for my kids. But in reality, you're really just avoiding parenting because you don't want to be there. Being at home and parenting is harder than being at work, right? You really have tapped out. So you may be suffering from poverty. You may be suffering from laziness, or you may be suffering from not being able to get yourself to take action for real if you have tapped out. And you need to have an honest conversation with yourself, because it's not a conversation for you to prove to anyone else. Only you know if you have really tapped out. Have you tapped out? You know that if you tapped out and I'm just gonna sleep. I can't get myself to get out of the bed. I'm watching stream. I'm streaming. I'm binge watching TV shows and series. You know that you tapped out, and everybody around you know that you've tapped out. But I'm challenging the people who are the optical illusionists who have tapped out, who appear to be busy, but you know you're not really doing anything. You're not doing what it takes to change your life, to get yourself out of poverty, to change the trajectory of what's going on. And if that's you, I'm not saying it to be cruel or to judge you. I'm saying it so that you can be honest with yourself and have an honest conversation with yourself. Again, link up with a therapist and have an honest conversation. I've tapped out, and these are the reasons I don't want to try. All right. A fifth reason is you could be suffering from ADHD, and that's adult attention deficit what is it? Hyperactivity disorder. ADHD. This one is interesting. I looked this up and I'm going to go over the cycle with you. This is what an ADHD cycle looks like. If this sounds like you may be suffering from ADHD. This is the cycle. I want to read it to you. It's called the ADHD burnout cycle. So, this is what it is: it's a recurring pattern of stress, reduced motivation, and procrastination that can significantly interfere with a person's ability to find relief. The typical cycle involves the following stages. Now, listen up. If you hear this and if you can identify with this to yourself, I want you to hold your finger up. This is how the cycle goes. First, you have high energy and commitment. It says people with ADHD may feel motivated and enthusiastic about new tasks and responsibilities. So the first thing is something comes up and you're extremely excited and motivated and committed to this thing. That's the first step in the cycle. That's immediately followed by overstimulation and overwhelm. As responsibilities grow, people may feel overwhelmed by the pressure to meet expectations and the high level of sensory input. That's the second thing you feel. Then immediately after that comes unhealthy coping mechanisms. So the third thing that happens in the cycle is people may resort to unhealthy tactics to manage overwhelming feelings, such as avoiding the task, procrastinating, overworking, or neglecting self-care. So if you're in the cycle, that's the third thing that's happening to you as you're in the cycle. Cycling through on the fourth thing, exhaustion and reduced productivity. The pressure people put on themselves can lead to extreme exhaustion, significant fatigue, and a drop in energy and productivity. And then the next phase of the cycle is you go into recovery and guilt. People may enter a recovery phase where they attempt to rest and recuperate, but may experience feelings of guilt and self-criticism. And then they restart the cycle all over again. So the final phase of the cycle is you restart with increased pressure. The cycle will restart as people regain some energy. If you find yourself in that cycle, you may be suffering from ADHD. So let's go over it again. The cycle goes like this. You're excited about something. You got a new idea, a new project. Something came up that you're extremely excited about. So next, after you get excited about it, you're overly stimulated and you feel overwhelmed, right? So you're excited about this new thing, and then now you are in this place of high stress. You're overly stimulated because you're thinking about all the things you have to do, all the tasks, everything, all the steps from step 1 to step 100. Now you're overwhelmed. You go immediately from being overwhelmed to now you have to cope. Now you've excited yourself so much and you've thought so much in the future, you kind of go, ugh. Right? And then it's like you either overwork, like you're pulling all nighters, or you start avoiding a task because you get the feelings I was feeling, where it's like just the thought of it you start to feel paralyzed a little bit, like you feel stuck. And then after that, the pressure starts to build up because if you're like me, you may have started the thing or you may have put internal pressure on yourself. You may have set a deadline and you're listening to all these motivational speakers talk about how you got to get yourself to go and you got to take action. And now the pressure is building up, and that pressure leads to fatigue, which was that sleepiness feeling I was feeling, where it's like, oh, you sit down in front of the task and you're like sleepy before you even start. And then you just kind of tap out and you go to sleep. And then you keep doing that. And now you've been procrastinating, but it's still in the back of your head. And then you start to feel guilty. And then that's when you start talking to yourself and you're like, oh, I'm procrastinating again. Oh, I got to get myself to take action. Oh, I'm ruining my life. Oh, right? All that self guilt. And then you've been down, you've been sleeping, and then you jump up. No, I'm going to do it. And you start the cycle all over again. That is an ADHD cycle. If you are suffering from an ADHD cycle, you may be being too hard on yourself again. You may need therapy to help you cope with the ADHD. If that sounds all too familiar to you, my challenge to you is to get evaluated. There's a lot of resources, a lot of um, online places like BetterHelp. If you have a job, you may have through your insurance, mental health is such a big thing. You may have resources you can tap into to talk to a therapist, and it's probably covered. If it's not, there are a lot of free resources where you can reach out and talk to someone and get evaluated, because you may be beating yourself up and feeling as if, oh, I'm lazy. Oh, I'm not disciplined. Oh, I just got to get myself to be more disciplined. Oh, you may actually need tools to help you manage the ADHD. And tools don't necessarily have to be medicine. I know for me, I try to steer away from meds any way that I can. But a therapist could give you other tools. They can give you mental exercises to help you calm your brain. They can give you puzzles and challenges and just different tools, like different strategies that you can walk through, different step-by-step processes to help you break the loop and break the cycle. So you may not need to beat up on yourself and think that you're lazy. That may not be it. You may just need to talk to a therapist to help you manage ADHD. And the final thing is inner dialogue. As a result of all of these, if you identify with either the brokenness, the fear of consequence, the PTSD, you tapped out, ADHD, whatever it is, some of you may be suffering or may be struggling to take action consistently because of your inner dialogue. Like what's your inner conversation? Is your inner conversation, man, I never can get this together. Man, I'm not a morning person. I'm not disciplined. It's going to be too hard. I don't have 5 years to go back to school. It's going to cost too much money to go back to school. Who's going to babysit the kids? I'm too far gone. I can't just quit my job and go back to school and level up. I can't stay up all night. I have too much on my plate. Whatever internal dialogue is the reason why you can't take action or the reason why you can't pursue the thing. I'm too sleepy. I don't feel like it. I'll do it tomorrow. The internal dialogue may be shutting you down. And again, it comes back to seeking a therapist, because I am my deepest thought, my deepest belief is that most of you watching me are not just lazy. I wasn't just lazy. Most of you watching me are not just slothful people. I'm not a slothful person. But most of you may not be taking action. You may find it hard to stay consistently motivated. You may be procrastinating, but that doesn't mean you're a procrastinator. You may be in a state where you're slothful, but it doesn't mean you're a slothful person. So I really want to drive home, look deeper. Can you identify with any of the reasons I gave? Can you identify with maybe your experience in brokenness? Is it fear of consequence? Is it PTSD from past failures, past experiences? Have you tapped out? Is it ADHD? Is it an inner dialogue? If it's any of these things, I challenge you to seek a therapist, a licensed therapist, in addition to praying. Because it's not that you're lazy, it's not that you lack discipline. You need the tools to unpack whatever is going on in your subconscious mind so that you can resolve it and reframe it. And that's going to break you free. That's going to be your freedom. You need to talk to a licensed therapist so that they can help you identify and to write a new narrative of the internal dialogue that's going on. You may need to talk to a therapist to help you get over the brokenness and the depression, because to try to get yourself to be disciplined, to beat yourself, to try to motivate yourself, to try to positive affirm yourself into action, is not dealing with the root issue. And because you're not dealing with the root issue, you're going to constantly suffer with lack of motivation, lack of follow through, lack of consistently taking action. But if you get to the root of the brokenness, and if you get the tools to heal from the brokenness, the motivation will magically appear. I'm not saying that you're going to always feel like doing things, but it'll it'll go from you struggling with procrastination, it'll go from a 95% struggle to like a 5% struggle. And you will be able to more easily jump over the hurdle of the 5% struggle of just the natural human tendency to not feel like doing things sometimes, opposed to trying to jump over a 95% hurdle, which is bigger than what it should be because you're suffering with brokenness. Right. So if it's fear of consequence, if it's PTSD, you're tapped out, ADHD, inner dialogue, link up. This is my challenge for everyone this week. And I'm taking the challenge as well, because I definitely want to get evaluated, because when I was going through and I was being introspective, I'm like, man, I need to be evaluated, because some of the things that I'm suffering with may actually be some of these symptoms that I went over. So I am personally not just pointing a finger at you. I am personally going to get evaluated and speak with a therapist and start to have a regular relationship with a therapist, because I think it's important just to have someone to challenge my perspective, just to have someone to challenge the thoughts and the conclusions that I come to. Because if I had someone challenge me, and if I had someone that I was talking to, the years that it was taking me to possibly start teaching fitness again, for example, I could have been years ahead. So what I mean by that specifically is, if I was regularly talking to a therapist, and our therapist noticed that I kept saying I wanted to start the fitness business again, but I wasn't starting the fitness business, they would have probably identified within year one, maybe even month one, that the reason I was procrastinating was because I was afraid of dealing with people who don't want to pay. Instead of that being a 5-year blind spot, a therapist may have heard me talk and identified that and pointed it out. And then they may have actually talked to me and said, hey, you ever think about hiring someone else, a family member, or outsourcing bill collection so that you don't have to deal with it? They could have identified that and told me that in month one. But because I wasn't talking to someone, fast forward 5 years later, I wasn't even aware that was running, right? So you may have things going on, you may have internal dialogues, you may have conclusions you come to that don't serve you. And talking to a therapist will illuminate your blind spot so that you can see whether or not you've tapped out. You can see whether or not you're broken. You can see whether or not you're struggling with ADHD. And not only can you see it, they can give you the tools to work through it. It doesn't have to be medication. A lot of times it's just giving you a different way to think. A lot of times it's just giving you mental exercises and brain exercises to rewire your brain. A lot of times it's just changing your diet. So, my challenge to you is I challenge you within the next 30 days to find a resource, a mental health resource, and I want you to schedule your first appointment with a therapist. If you already have a therapist and it's not helping you, I am challenging you to interview and try out other therapists until you find a therapist that actually resonates with you and gives you tools and action steps to take to actually change your life for the better. So, today's Sunday school, I leave you with, are your feelings making you poor? Are your feelings keeping you in poverty? And if they are, I propose that it's something deeper than you just need discipline. It's something deeper than you just need motivation. There may be underlying things that are zapping your discipline and zapping your motivation. And if you deal with and address and cure those underlying things, you will feel like a brand new person. You will feel the weight just lift off your shoulders. You will feel yourself motivated and disciplined in your energy. Because the crazy thing or the interesting thing about our bodies is that we have visceral and physical responses to our thoughts. So when we're carrying around limiting beliefs, it transmutes itself into us feeling sleepy all the time. When we have things in the back of our minds that we're worried about, or we have unresolved issues, unresolved trauma, it transmutes into lack of motivation. And it's so the lack of motivation and the sleepiness and feeling stressed out and feeling like you weigh a ton, a lot of times that's just the fruit. The root of it is whatever program, whatever internal dialogue, whatever unresolved issues you have running. So when we have the root here and this is the fruit that the root or the tree is producing, if we get to the root of it, the fruit becomes different. So when you get to the root of depression, when you get to the root of ADHD, when you get to the root of brokenness, when you get to the root of the reality that you just tapped out, when you deal with that underneath, the fruit becomes, oh man, I'm motivated. Oh man, I have energy. Oh man, I can stay focused. Oh wow, I'm organized. Oh wow, my space is organized. I wake up in the morning. I don't feel like I weigh a ton. I can take action. So here are some tools for you to take immediately, some things that help me. Of course, I'm not a therapist, but this is what I want you to do. Immediately, here are some things you can do. You can pull out a journal. You could take some time and you can write down the things that you have been struggling to get yourself to take action on consistently. So just write a list of what you want to do, what you keep having the goals to do, but for some reason you don't do it. And then I want you to pay attention to your body when you try to do that thing. So what I mean specifically is, let's say, for example, if you keep saying you need to call a person, or you need to write a business plan, or you need to create a flyer, whatever it is, even in the moment you don't feel like it, I want you to I want you to pick up the phone. I want you to pick up the phone and I want you to feel, even if you're not going to make the phone call, I want you to feel everything that's happening in your body and write it down. Right? I want you to sit in front of the computer, even if you're not going to create the flyer. I want you to sit in front of the computer and take note of everything that's happening in your body. That's the first step, because that's going to help you identify, man, am I feeling nervous? Am I feeling anxious? Is my body doing fight or flight? And I want you to not call someone, not reach for food, not reach for Netflix. Just sit in that uncomfortable feeling so that you can identify what's going on. Slow down time and get a hold of what's happening with you. Because that's what I did. And it was really, really helpful. And then the next thing I want you to do is I want you to write down what you're feeling. And then take the time to journal. Is there possibly something that I don't want to experience? Is there possibly something that I'm fortune telling to be a negative outcome? Am I possibly seeing that if I do this, something bad may happen? And what is that? Have I done this before and something bad happened? What was that? Right? I want you to really slow down time. That's going to help you a lot. And then the final thing I want you to do is I want you to challenge yourself to take 2 minutes of action. So you can start to get yourself to take action before you even talk to a therapist. And the 2-minute challenge helps with that a lot. So it looks like this. Let's say, for example, you keep saying you want to exercise, you want to work out, but you can't get yourself to work out. Set a timer for 2 minutes and just challenge yourself to only work out for 2 minutes. You keep saying that you want to write a business plan, or you want to call someone, or you want to create a flyer, or you want to work on a business. Set a 2-minute timer. Demand nothing more of yourself than 2 minutes. Set the 2-minute timer and do the thing. Now, if at the end of the 2 minutes you feel like you're suffocated and you need to step away, fine. It was a win. Step away. You did it for the 2 minutes. Reward and congratulate yourself. What's going to happen though is if you, after the 2 minutes, you feel like you can go longer, go longer. And I want you to document how many times at the end of the 2 minutes you felt motivated to go longer, and how many times at the end of the 2 minutes you needed to step away and you finished. Doing all of these exercises that I just gave you with the journal writing. So you got the introspection, you have writing down what you were motivated to do but can't get yourself to do. You have writing down the emotion you feel even when you just physically position yourself for it. You have a 2-minute timer challenge. Document all this stuff. And that's going to empower you to have introspection. And you're going to start to be able to take action a whole lot easier. When you pay attention to yourself, it empowers you. Because a lot of times just knowing what's going on with you breaks you free. The truth sets you free. For a lot of you, just knowing what's going on with you, you're instantly broken free. For a lot of you, like even if you do sit down and you feel that uncomfortable feeling, because now you know what it is, a lot of you are going to feel that uncomfortable feeling and still take action anyway. Because a lot of it is just once the blind spot is revealed, you're free. So if that happened to you, I'm very excited. I'm very happy for you. I still want you to reach out to a therapist. The challenge is still for you to reach out to a therapist so you have someone to talk to on a regular basis to challenge your perspective, to reframe your perspective. And until next Sunday, if you're going to take the challenge and you're going to reach out and have your first conversation with a therapist, leave me a comment and let me know that you accept the challenge. It's going to change your life. And stop beating yourself up. You're not lazy. You're not slothful. You just need to resolve these issues. And once you resolve these issues, it's going to be a lot easier for you to consistently take action. I'm going to end off going back to Proverbs 24, because this is the reason. Because when you don't take the action to heal yourself, when you don't take the action to fix yourself, I went by the field of the slothful and by the vineyard of the man void of understanding. And lo, it was grown over with thorns and nettles and covered the face thereof. And the stone wall thereof was broken down. Then I saw and considered it well. I looked upon it and received instruction. Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall your poverty come as one that travail, and your want as an armed man. So it's important for you to get a handle of this stuff so that you overcome being slothful, so that you overcome the reason that you choose to sleep, so that you overcome the reason that you procrastinate and put it off until tomorrow. You have to address these issues, because if you don't, poverty will come upon you the way labor comes upon a pregnant woman. If you don't get a handle of these issues, and you keep succumbing to not being able to take action, you being in a position of wanting but not having, will sneak up on you the way a robber sneaks up on you. That's what Proverbs 24:30 says. So it's imperative that you get to the root of what is causing you to not be able to take action, so that you can heal it, so that you can resolve it, and so that you can consistently take action. I love you so much. Protect your wealth, protect your success by doing the necessary work to get to the other side of this. And until next Sunday, Be blessed. That was Proverbs 24, verse 30, and then Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 18. Love y'all so much. Be blessed.